The International Day for Banks is a day set aside to reflect on the vital role financial institutions play in sustainable development. So, in Nigeria, this year's commemoration raises critical questions such as, are banks living up to their potential in supporting citizens to achieve the goals of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development? Amid challenges like the persistent issue of cash shortages in banks and concerns over customer satisfaction. On the program today, we'll examine whether banks have truly been a driving force for progress, or if more needs to be done to address these pressing concerns as we explore these issues and seek answers that matter to every Nigerian. Thanks for joining us. I'm Victoria Clinton, and welcome to Nigeria Today. With me in the studio for the conversation is Daniel Adegoke. He's a business strategic manager with Taco Group. You're welcome to Nigeria Today.
Thank you for having me here.
And joining us via Zoom is Professor Sebastian Uremadu, a professor in finance, banking, and also financial economics. He's a financial economist and also a public finance expert. You're welcome to Nigeria Today.
Thank you, ma.
Now, I'll start with you, Prof. Can you, in your own opinion, give us the assess the Nigerian banks in terms of, their contribution to development, economic development?
Yeah, Nigerian banks over the years have been very supportive in terms of supplying liquidity and loans for investment. So over the years, various sectors, business, agriculture, industry, and all whatnot, have been running to banks for assistance, for financial assistance. And the banks, Nigerian banks, have not been failing in that. They have been very supportive to shore up the Nigerian economy. But the resilience of the Nigerian banks has helped to sustain the economy, despite all the negative things we've been facing in this country, in rising development and growth. Thank you.
Okay, now to you, Daniel. I also want to have your own perspective on the role of the banks. I know you are in the business sector, so you have a lot of. I know you have a lot of things to talk about their contributions.
Oh yeah, okay. Majorly, the banking sector has been one that has developed over the years in Nigeria, which is a collective effort. And one of the things I know I like about it is the fintech space. That's a transaction, payment online. The banking sector has been able to modify that, modernize that, and that has been able to help businesses, right from the small scale to the medium scale to the large scale. You can make payments as soon as possible just using your phone, which I think is a landmark for the banking industry.
Okay, still on the role of the banks, maybe Prof, I should also, I should ask you this. Looking at the 2030 SDG goals, how would you say that the banks, the Nigerian banks have, contributed to achieving these goals?
Hello. Yes. The Nigerian banks have been very supportive in achieving the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, in the sense that they have been supportive through the banks You know, the health sector has been funded. The industry, which is the real sector, has been, funded. Even the educational sector. Of late, the current administration came up with something very, very good, very, very supportive, the students' loan. In the last Senate we had, we were briefed by the Vice Chancellor, of how this loan had. It means handicapped students or students from, families that are not strong enough. In fact, in the current circumstances we're in, no family will say that it doesn't need that loan. So all their awards will be seriously encouraged to go for that loan. If there is anything good the current administration has done to move or extend the frontier of the development goal 2030, it is by bringing into focus these students' loan. Because a well-educated society or literate society is very, very important. It is the educated. Every part of the educated is very profitable, just like the pantry. Every part of the pantry is very, very important. So when a child is refined, is well-educated, it deters the child from joining the achieving the 2030 development goals, sustainable development goals, getting our children, our youth into the 2030 development goals. And the current policy of the present administration, this Tinubu administration, in bringing in the student loan for the first time in Nigeria, is going to achieve a lot in the present circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Now, back to you, Daniel. I know as much as I know you say there are some innovations that have been introduced in the banking sector that have been very, very helpful. However, some of the, the business, talking about the business sector, the medium-scale businesses, the small-scale businesses, and all of that, some are of the opinion that they are not really, having access to funds. Now, in your own experience, are there specific sectors banks should prioritize for funding, to drive economic diversification?
Oh, thank you for that question. In my opinion, it's very relative based on the economy. Now we're looking at Nigeria. So look at the deficiency here we have in Nigeria. What sector do really need the funding? I'll tell you, the agricultural sector really needs the funding. And as the economy is, we prioritize what is important first. So the IT sector is very important. You and I live on IT right now. We are no longer in the archaic world. Now we need IT, we need to develop our infrastructure. So as a startup, and I think that's what they are doing right now, I can recall Access Bank and the Bank of Industry, they prioritize funding startups. So I think, from my opinion, the IT sector, the agricultural sector are the ones we can prioritize in terms of funding.
Okay, now back to you, Prof. Now, recently there was an increase in the MPR by 25 basis points. Now, in your opinion, how supportive are regulatory policies in enabling banks to contribute effectively to development in Nigeria?
Yeah, increasing the MPR, that is the interest rate that guides lending from the central bank, that guides the commercial bank lending to the economy, to business, to government, and every other area of the economy. Rising it, mind you, we're having problem currently. We're having problem of hyperinflation. We are having problem of highly depressed economy. inflation, the highly depressed economy, cost of living has risen to high heavens, and Nigerians are really suffering. If you get to the streets of Nigeria, you see walking corpses, brought about by the removal of fuel subsidy. And I'm very passionate about it. I will talk to Mr. President particularly on that. I will want him to shift ground on that. There is no country that does not encourage subsidies. America encourages its farmers with subsidies. Every other country encourages with subsidies. In modeling, we call the variable or indicator of that subsidy a catch-all variable, meaning that it touches on everything. Right from 29th of May, when that fuel subsidy was removed, I knew it as an expert in this field. That day, the economy started to shrink. Nigerians started to die. So there is serious need to restore fuel subsidy. Let the government, present government, restore fuel subsidy. Once you do that, every other thing will, reset.
Prof, I want you to, there's a comment you made there, and I don't think it really goes down well.
If we don't,
talking about Nigeria starting to die. No, I would really want you to, retrace that, take that back, really, because when the subsidy was removed, a lot of experts on this program said it was a welcome development. However, we know there are some challenges that that we are trying to brace up to. We are trying to confront these challenges, but if you're saying Nigeria began to die, no, not exactly, because there are a lot of policies on ground that are, trying to bring us back on track, and there are a lot of successes recorded in various areas. So let's move on. Now back to you, Daniel. What areas do you think that more should be done, in our banking sector to ensure that we have, growth in economic growth and economic development generally?
Okay. One key point here, or where I think we need to work on, is the interest rate. It's quite high for a startup, small businesses. They can't go to the bank to get loans, and if they do get the loans, they have to pay through their nose, and the economy is quite harsh on everybody. So I will really plead to the government we work on the interest rates. If it can be reduced, then trust me, the economy will be fine once again.
Okay, we'll take a short break now, and when we return, the conversation we continue. Don't go away.
Implementation of the ruling is also dependent on another aspect or another arm of government.
Nowhere in the world will allow, under digital economy, for banks not to be dispensing domestic currency in that economy.
What will make this one different?
We want to know what they do as occupation. All of these are attributes that are questions have been designed to investigate.
In a few days to come, you see that we are all around their own crannies and everywhere in Nigeria, telling people to cooperate.
Welcome to Nigeria Today. Welcome back. This is still Nigeria Today, and we are looking at banks for Agenda 2024. Of course, the role the banks are playing in national development. And of course, I have two gentlemen, one via Zoom and one here in the studio. Now, back to you, Prof. Now, in what ways do you think banks can align their strategies, with Nigeria's long-term development goals, such as those outlined, in the National Development Plan?
Yeah. To complete what I had wanted to say in rising the CBN, rising the MPR, as the MPR, has been pushed up, various interest rates will go up. And that will not be with the biting inflation and other depressive things that are on. It will be countering the target for achieving the development goals. So, but there is hope. As I said earlier, with some of the good policies of this government, like in particular, bringing to bear the student loan, and then agri sector. The wife is also driving the agri sector. If all the contingents, the ministers, work closely with him, I feel that the long-term development goals of this administration is going to be achieved. We are going to achieve sustainable development because Mr. Tinubu is a serious-minded person. Once he pays heed to restoring the fuel subsidy, removing multiple taxes, every other things will, come to play. There will be stability in the economy, and every other thing, every other agent of development or growth of the economy will bring to bear, and for sure, there's going to be growth in the economy. He's a serious-minded leader, and I know he is going to do something serious. And with Nigerians at various levels working together with him, for sure, the long-term development of this country is going to grow. The real sector has to be funded. Thank God that refineries like the Dangote refinery have been built in rivers and Niger, within the Niger Delta. There are some efforts, serious effort being made. Once the instability and the security problem of the country is handled and there is stability, for sure, Nigeria is going to move forward. There is going to be growth and there is going to be development. I assure you, I'm an expert in this field. So when I talk from research. The issue of foreign exchange, from research, what ought to be done is fix the exchange rate and then guide, you call it guided exchange rate. Fix it and then be guiding it. No nation leaves its exchange rate, forex, to market forces to fix it for you. The nation has to fix its exchange rate and guidedly be guiding it. If that happens, we are marching forward. And Mr. President is in the right direction. He's a serious-minded leader, and I know that. Thank you.
Thank you. I really love what you said. There is hope, Prof. There is hope. And back to you, Daniel. What kind of collaboration would you want to see, within between the government, the private sector, and the banks to overcome, some of the challenges that, the banks have been facing in trying to, drive the economic development in the country?
Okay. I would like to see collaboration between the Bank of Industry and some private sectors, because the product or the yield from that is enough for the development of the country, and I think with that should be enough. The government should collaborate with the private sector as well, and some top banks too, like I saw in the news some other day, Zenith Bank trying to collaborate with the government of France to generate funds that can help the government of Nigeria as well. I think that's my take on that.
Okay. Now, back to you, Prof, before we go, what is your vision for the role of banks in Nigeria's development over the next decade?
May I get you, ma? May I get you?
I said, what is your vision, looking ahead? Now, looking ahead now, what is your vision for the role of banks in Nigeria's development over the next decade? What would you want to see over the next decades?
Okay. Okay. Yes, it is important that the Nigerian banking, and when I say banks or banker, I mean commercial banks, should drive the economy. It is the duty of the banks to fund development, fund government, fund businesses. And this is the role of the banks. But presently, there is scarcity of funds in the country. Money supply seems to be drying up. So the banks have to sit up. The central bank, the Apex Bank, the bank itself has to sit up. And in regulatory missions, they have to provide liquidity, loans to businesses, to governments, fund real sector, fund agriculture, because it is the real sector that actually brings, what you call capitalization. It is the real sector that brings about increase in the total stock of capital and growth. So there is need for banks to really fund businesses, moderate interest rates, do interest rate targeting, do inflation targeting, see how it is done in other countries, and stop discouraging businesses. And Nigerian businesses and investors, when they borrow, let them have it in mind that they have to pay. Because in most cases, they think it is government money, it is nobody's money. When they borrow, they refuse to pay. If you don't pay, with what will the bank continue in business? It is important that when money is lent to you, try to repay so that the banks will continue, So there will be need again for recapitalization of bank capital. Liquidity is important so that we do not face a run in the system. So the banking system has a lot to do, and the stock market will equally assist.
Thank you very much. This is where we draw the curtain for today's episode of Nigeria Today. A very big thank you to Professor Sebastian Uremadu. He's a professor of banking and finance. Thank you so much for your time and your contribution.
Thank you, ma'am.
And also here in the studio we had Adege Daniel Adegoke. He's a business strategic manager with Taco Group. Thank you so much for your time and your contribution. And thank you for being part of this program. Remember, Nigeria Today airs every weekday at 7:30 p.m. on Nta News24. You can also watch this episode and others on www.youtube.com/NTA News24 Hub. Once again, thank you for being there. I'm Mikaria Clinton. Goodbye.